Well, good afternoon to you. It is 4:06 here, News Talk 105.9 WMAL, where we're making sense of the news. Coming up top of the hour, we'll be joined by a journalist by the name of Steve Baker. He was one of dozens of reporters, a lot of reporters who were inside of the Capitol building on January 6, 2021. But his sin is that he writes for conservative outlets. So now the Justice Department is prosecuting him. The breaking news ahead, as we'll find out from Steve what the latest is in his case. Mark Morgan joins us at 5:30, former Trump administration official, a guy who's been a part of the immigration mission here in the United States. We'll get his thoughts on all of the threats that keep coming across our border. And you can join us at 888-630-9625, 888-630-WMAL. Fairfax County, Virginia, the scene of so much drama in the public school system, of course, the government school system. And the latest in that saga is the principal at Justice High School in Falls Church, Virginia, posted a photo recently to social media. Her name is Tiffany Narcissa, which it may be the most fitting name ever. She posted a photo of herself standing, holding a cup of coffee inside of a school hallway and smiling ear to ear, big grin on her face. And the post said, "Losing a student is never easy for a building principal. Still smiling, still standing, still leading, still teaching, learning, and growing. Hashtag Justice Strong," with a heart emoji. And so she posts this, and what this tweet was in reaction to was that a young woman, a teenager at Justice High School, recently died due to a drug overdose at the beginning of the month. And it is an immense tragedy. And here you have a principal posting a photo of herself smiling ear to ear in a hallway saying she's holding up just great. She has since apologized for this post. But what is going on in Fairfax County that a principal thinks that this is an appropriate idea? Let's bring in a woman who's been following it all very closely as a parent of Fairfax County students. Azra Nomani is here. She's a senior fellow at the Independent Women's Forum and the author of the book Woke Army, the Red-Green Alliance that is destroying America's freedom. Azra, good to have you back with us.
Oh, my gosh. Thank you so much.
So what is this at Justice High School? What leads a principal to think that, you know what the community needs right now is a picture of me smiling holding a cup of coffee?
Yeah, so this is such a long story that has begun, several years ago. Why is it called Justice High School? Because it was renamed, first of all, in the wake of George Floyd's killing, and it has become ground zero for a lot of the woke activism by the administrators in Fairfax County, Virginia. What is so ironic is that it is got a lot of minority students, racial minority students, that are supposedly the people that this new equity agenda was supposed to uplift. But then this great irony is exactly what you said, this tragedy of a young woman who is Hispanic. Her mother has said her name. I'll just say her first name, Madeline. So Madeline, beautiful young girl, 15 years old, 10th grader at Justice, and she dies on Sunday, December 3rd. The PTSA puts out a really sweet email with a GoFundMe account to the mom, and then the principal, Tiffany Narciss, as you said, nicknamed now Tiffany Narcissism, puts out this insensitive tweet. And the only thing she was missing, Vince, was, "I'm now going to take a sabbatical for self-care," because it's so much about themselves as administrators. And the real irony, I counted the number of words, 23 words in her little tweet, 21, if you want to include Justice Strong as being about the kids, is about her. And she doesn't even describe herself as a principal of the students. She calls herself a building principal, and that is the tragedy of
that's a weird phrase. What does that mean, building principal?
Well, they have all these different administration offices, and it's so bureaucratic heavy, and so they have an assistant principal, and it's their bureaucracy. And ultimately, the metaphor is so clear, not only in Fairfax County and at Justice High School, but across America. The heart of education is now lost, and that is the students and the children.
Also, like it is. I mean, obviously, it's her name, and so this is an easy one to say. But I mean, it is narcissistic to
It is.
take a photo of yourself grinning ear to ear in the reaction to a child's death, and then posting it and thinking that that's going to help the community. Oh, they're going to see me smiling. It's going to be helpful. I mean, it reminds me in a lot of ways of Obama. Obama did this a whole bunch. Like whenever there was a tragedy, he would post a photo of himself to his Twitter account, and that was supposed to heal the country. In fact, there was one time where he was sitting in Rosa Parks' seat on a bus, and he posted the photo to commemorate Rosa Parks. It's like, you're not Rosa Parks. Why are you posting a photo of yourself? Like it is the self-obsession is completely over the top.
Yeah, and this whole talk about self-care just exploded after the 2020 riots that we had that were causing mayhem in the streets, right? Mayhem to communities, businesses, deaths even, right? Like tragic deaths, just like Madeline is now a tragic death. And the rhetoric began, I need to now help myself through the trauma, of George Floyd's killing, even though you weren't the person, or it wasn't from your family. Like you have this ripple effect. And this woman's tweet is emblematic of that obsession, that self-obsession that has forgotten the kids. And so
yes,
that's where like their futures, like this is what so this has gone viral now because Libs of TikTok has tweeted it out. It's got 2 million views. And what's interesting is you can't pull one over on the kids because they made photocopies of her tweet and posted it all over Justice High School.
oh man.
And one of the messages was, wow, I can't even say it on air, LMFAOOO, and I'll translate, laughing my frigging butt off, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's, the irony, right? The kids, yeah, and they're just, they see it, they see through it. And we went through this. We had 2 tragic deaths at my son's high school by suicide. Yeah. First one was he was a freshman, and the last one was after the COVID shutdowns, and this boy just went into a dark place. And so I have been graveside, while these kids are processing this tragedy that none of them could have ever imagined. And for the adults to ever think that it's about them is so beyond the pale of just healthy living or mature leadership.
So that brings me to another, I think, saga that's very much like this in terms of the narcissism. There's a Fairfax County School Board member who was just sworn in this week by the name of Carl Frisch. He's a Democrat, former Media Matters guy. He's a hardcore left winger, radical guy. And this week, in taking his oath of office, he put his hand on a stack of books that were pornographic in nature. They were depicting sex by young boys. And I don't know, can you give us a sense of what the heck's even going on here? Why would a public servant take the oath of office on a stack of pornography?
Yeah, I mean, this is where we have no adults in the room. You have this principal who has been heartless. Then there's no accountability for her because the school board members, now newly elected, have no conscience themselves about their sacred duty overseeing the lives of children, and they make it all about themselves. So Carl Frisch, I was up at dawn this morning, then watching the swearing-in ceremony, doing the edit of a little video clip from it, and I just couldn't believe it as I was watching it myself this morning. And they're in the darkness of Fairfax County, and there he was. He stepped forward with his partner, who's a teacher in Fairfax County Public Schools. Carl Frisch is single. He has no children. Gets reelected to the school board. He was, had big contributions from the Soros network, and they stepped forward. The pile of books, and this is a great irony, is that he tells his partner. You could hear him say, "Straighten the books. Straighten them." And I'm like, okay, man, you're like so many layers of ironic now. Because then the book with the biggest title was Flamer, and that's the one that has these images and this stuff that is not appropriate for children. Some parents have done counts, of the amount of, inappropriate words in there,
Sure.
and they're in the dozens. But what is going on? What's the bottom line? What's connective tissue here? That these principals and administrators are more concerned with their activism than education.
Well, there's a bunch of messages in it, aren't there? I mean, one is contempt for parents. One of them is like screw you. I'm gonna do whatever I want. In fact, I'm gonna make it as offensive as possible to offend you. So that's one. Two, normally when you put your hand on a book to take the oath, you're putting your hand on a holy book. Most of us think of the Bible. You put your hand on the Bible and you take your oath of office. And that is a meaning it's a deeply sincere expression. It's meant to convey that you recognize the gravity of the office you are entering. Instead, by putting your hand on a stack of pornography, stuff that parents don't want in front of their kids, what you're expressing is you're belittling the parents, and you're belittling faith, and you're belittling even having a sense of obligation or duty. You're there because you want to cause chaos.
Yeah, what I wrote from my tweet sharing the video was that this book, Flamer, is the new Bible in this cult of indoctrination in our K through 12 schools. And this is just one of the incredibly inspiring lines. The kid speaking to the other kid, and then says, they're learning about the great art of masturbation. We're each busting a load in this bottle. If you don't come, you have to drink it. Wow, that is something for the ages, right? What a parable. Thank you, Carl Frisch, for swearing your oath to our children on pornography. It's just unbelievable, but this is their ideology, and their religion is this religion of wokeism.
It's sad. It's really sad. And fundamentally, I think for us people of faith, you can recognize that evil is baked into that. That's all. It's just an expression of evil. It's an like you can't. I couldn't imagine in a million years feeling good about myself after doing something like that. You'd have to have he has to have a conscience in there somewhere saying, "This is insane. Stop doing this. This is bad for you, and it's bad for the people that you're supposed to be, taking care of in this awesome responsibility of being a part of the Fairfax County School Board." It's like, how does a guy like that even get elected? You mentioned the George Soros influence, but people of Fairfax County need to wake up. I am disgusted by what you just said. The contents of that book. I can't imagine putting that book in front of my wife. Nevertheless, my child. And yet here you have, a school board member just raising his middle finger to the people of Fairfax County.
Yeah, and unfortunately, as you witnessed yourself in our election, people voted down party line, and the school board members won a 12-0 Democratic majority again on the school board. The closest we had was maybe 3-2 vote for some of the Republican slate, but mostly it was 2 Democratic votes to everyone for a Republican candidate. And this county's demographics are so problematic right now for actually any kind of diversity of thought, and forget political view. So we have the monopoly right now by one party, and it's created this hubris, right, from the school principal to the school board member, where they have no consideration to actually try to be, to use their word, inclusive, and not turn people off and not alienate.
I know.
1/3 of the community, if not more people. I think more people are turned off, but just vote party line.
Yeah, and the irony this week, you have 2 major sports teams who are fleeing D.C., crime-ridden D.C. from Northern Virginia, and I'm sitting here thinking, Northern Virginia's not far behind, dude. D.C.'s like 5 years ahead, if that. It's just crazy what's happening. And God, it's only going to turn around thanks to the effort of people like you. Azra Nomani, thank you as always for your time today.
Thank you, Vince, for always being a bullhorn for us, always.
Oh, man, it's my pleasure. So nice to talk to you and so many great patriots. Thank you, Azra. It's 4. Well, coming up, by now it should be abundantly clear to you that Congress isn't really doing the work of the American people. But what are they doing when they're failing you? Well, apparently the answer is each other on the table in the Senate hearing rooms. A weird bizarre, really not safe for work scandal coming up. This news just breaking in the last hour. And it's, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to take a few minutes to figure out how to explain this. Additionally, speaking of committing crimes, Hunter Biden is considering becoming a fugitive. He's now admitting to friends and family that he's a flight risk. The details on that ahead as well on another busy Vince Coglianese show. Well, good afternoon to you. 434 here, News Talk 105.9 WMAL, where we're making sense of the news. Coming up on the program, independent journalist at one point, now a reporter for The Blaze, Steve Baker, joins us at 5 o'clock. Steve is now being attacked by the United States Department of Justice under Joe Biden. They're promising charges for him this coming week because he covered the events of January 6, 2021 in person. But he didn't write for the New York Times. So the Biden administration wants to charge him with a crime. And then Mark Morgan will be with us at 5:30. We'll talk about the latest chaos on our border caused by that Biden administration. You can join us at 888-630-9625, 888-630-WMAL. A lot to get to, including some breaking news just published about, just bedroom activities taking place literally on top of the tables in the United States Senate. We will share some details with you coming up on that. But first, I want to take a phone call. I've got Carol calling in from Fairfax. She wants to weigh in on some of the conversation I just had with Azra. Oh, she did hang up? Oh, that's too bad. I was hoping to take Carol. Well, Carol, call back. Maybe we'll get back to you. She wanted to weigh in on the conversation I was just having with Azra Nomani. But we'll see. Maybe we'll get Carol back. But in the meantime, I'll tell you about what's happening in the United States Senate. The Daily Caller headline this hour, just out. Exclusive, Senate staffer caught filming gay sex tape in Senate hearing room. Now, I should forewarn you, if you go looking for this story, brought to you by my colleagues at the Daily Caller, they've done their journalistic obligation here, and they include censored photographs and some censored animated images from the video. So just know that ahead of time. But it says leaked amateur pornography shows a congressional staffer having, I won't describe it entirely, with an unknown man in the Senate hearing room. Video obtained by the Daily Caller shows the alleged staffer can be seen in the photo, naked on all fours, looking back at the camera on the table where senators often sit to ask questions during hearings. A source identified the room to the Daily Caller as Senate Room SDG 50. The Daily Caller blurred out his face because his identity has not been confirmed. So there's no question here that this is a Senate hearing room. No, it's well lit. It's not like the lights are off. The lights are on. This is at a time during the day when the lights are on inside of this room, and it's happening in the United States Senate. So I guess we'll find out more about this. Do you want to jump to any conclusions about political affiliation here? Who could it be? What party could this guy be with? I don't know. But that's happening in the Senate. Maybe we can get some answers. Like Chuck Schumer, you want to tell us exactly what's going on here? Whose seat is that? Who normally sits in that position and asks questions during the hearing? Will they be asking for a seat change going forward? I don't know. It looks like, I'm not sure if this is the way it's normally conducted, but when there's usually in these Senate hearing rooms, I think that they have the Republican and Democrat chairman. They sit in the middle and the ranking member, and then the Republicans are to the right of the chairman, and then the Democrats are to the left. I may be wrong about that, but if that's the case, this guy is definitely doing the dirty in the Democrat section of the questioning on the dais. So anyway, this a growing, sudden breaking news scandal that Senate staffers have way too much time on their hands, and they're using Senate facilities for things that should not be happening there at all. There's that. Let me go back to the phones now and spare you the rest of that story. Carol's in Fairfax on line one. Carol, good afternoon. I was just introducing. I was saying that you wanted to weigh in on what Azra Nomani said about Carl Frisch in Fairfax County.
That is correct. Yes. Thank you for taking my call. I posted on our local next door platform about the swearing in on the banned books.
Yes.
And you would not believe the comments that came back from my neighbors in this area of Fairfax. It was mind-boggling, such as, could have sworn in on a pile of sliced turkey, who cares, chill. Unconcerned, they did nothing wrong. One was, that is awesome. Our country was founded on free speech and the encouragement of free thinking of our youth. So I agree that these book bans are out of control. It went on and on. I finally just closed the discussion after 21 hours. That's all. It just shows how much Fairfax County has changed and how out of control our school board is, and the voters in this area. This is what they voted for.
For sure. And that's how that happens. Voters like that who have a wanton disregard for decency, definitely, and who don't even know our history. The country was founded on free speech. Yeah, but we were endowed by our creator with those inalienable rights, weren't we? They're kind of missing a huge chunk of why we'd say we have free speech in this country, aren't they?
Yes, they are. And a lot of them were the Constitution does not require swearing an oath of office on a particular book.
I know, and there's people who make a mockery of it. There've been all sorts of officials who've taken the oath on like comic books and things because they just make a mockery of the whole thing. Like if you're gonna swear in, you don't want to put your hand on a Bible or a holy book, just don't do that. But instead they make a mockery of it, and boy, there's nothing more brazen than taking your hand and putting on a stack of pornography and then acting as if you're doing something noble. My post was, can someone please tell me what kind of an oath is sworn in while holding a stack of banned books? I'm thinking the oath means diddly squat, and I still think that. It like you said on the previous comments when you were talking about this, it's kind of saying, to heck with you parents. We don't care. We're going to teach your kids whatever we want to teach them. Yes.
And I'm sorry, but teaching used to be a really good profession, and you look up to teachers.
Let me
I
challenge.
have no respect for any teachers now.
Let me challenge one element though, because there's the left really does want to refer to these as quote banned books because they think that it evokes images of Nazi book burnings and suggests that their political opponents are trying to destroy literature and things. And that's all so preposterous. It really is. And what we're talking about, just to remind people for the umpteenth time, is parents have every right to be a part of a conversation about what books are actually included in their child's curriculum and what books are available in a school library. These books, as awful as they are not banned in the United States. You can go buy them wherever you can find books. That's not the issue. What this is about whether or not children are being given pornography in their schools. And the pornography, I'm not overstating it. It's not like hyperbole, like, oh, Vince is referring to normal literature as pornography. And that's not it at all. We're talking about graphic sex acts between children, graphic sex acts between children and adults, depicted in actual imagery in some of these books. And that's what the left is fighting for, to put in front of these kids. Meanwhile, the left is also fighting to ban actual books like To Kill a Mockingbird and Huckleberry Finn, actual American literature. The left, in 1984, George Orwell, you're looking at a left that is moving with a by any means necessary approach to advancing its agenda, actually banning American literature and simultaneously putting porn in front of your kids. Now, what goal does any of that serve, Carol?
None whatsoever.
Yes, except something very dark.
It is very dark. And we're not talking, when we say kids, we're not talking 17, 18-year-olds. We're talking elementary school kids these books were shown to and are available to.
I know.
They're learning things that nobody should know until they're, consenting adults.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
and the other piece is like you hear
something
some of these
like that.
parents will arrive at these school board meetings, Carol, and then they'll start reading from the books. They'll read out loud in a room full of only adults. And these school boards will object. They'll say, no, that's out of order. That's explicit. You can't be reading stuff like that. Well, then why is it in the school? If I can't read this in front of other adults at a school board meeting, then how is it that you can put it in front of my kid?
That happened, and I saw it, and it doesn't make any sense. It just shows you how far the Democrat side will go.
It's amazing. Well, Carol, good for you. God bless you for even raising it on the Next Door app of all places. It's a little toxic, those neighborhood message boards, but boy, it really did reveal a whole bunch to you, didn't it? So thank you for that, and thank you for giving us your account of what happened.
Thanks for taking my call.
Of course, Carol. Thanks for calling back. Let's see here. I've got another phone call coming in. Ross is in Olney, line 2. Ross, good afternoon. You're on the Vince Coglianese Show.
Yes. After hearing that story, I'm wondering if this person is trying to get a position in the administration, cabinet.
The fella that was caught on tape having sex inside of one of the investigative hearing rooms of the United States Senate, is that who you're referring to?
I don't know whether it was a fellow or not.
It was a fellow. I'm here to tell you, in case you missed that detail. It was a fellow, and he's up on all fours on top of a Senate hearing room desk, right in front of those microphones where they constantly have trouble figuring out how to turn them on. And it's deeply unfortunate. You say that given his audition here, he may be seeking a position in the White House?
So to speak.
So to speak. Ross, thank you. Ross had a joke to tell. I had to give you some context for his joke to remind people of what we were talking about. A position in the White House. I don't know. Don't you? In terms of just like graphic videos filmed by people in and around the White House, don't you think Hunter Biden has that covered? The position's filled. Hunter Biden's been doing that for years. Yeah, that's crazy. Speaking of Hunter, that's a great opportunity to talk about Hunter. Did you know that Hunter's already threatening to become a fugitive from justice? A fugitive from justice. Breitbart headline today, report Hunter Biden threatens to flee America if Donald Trump is reelected. Now, normally, if you find out that a person who's being criminally prosecuted, supposedly, is now flirting with fleeing the country in order to avoid consequences, you might put that in front of a judge. You might say, we may need to take him into custody. He's not only is he notionally a flight risk, he's literally declaring that he's a flight risk. Hunter Biden reportedly threatened to take extreme action and flee the United States of America if voters reelect former President Donald Trump. The threat represents the often neurotic nature of the president's son, 53, who faces 42 years in prison for tax and gun charges in an ongoing investigation. In recent conversations with family friends, Hunter, has worried that he might have to flee the country if Trump were to be elected again. Two people who spoke with Hunter told Politico's Jonathan Lemire. Breitbart notes that recent polling shows Trump does lead President Joe Biden in state and nationwide polling. For instance, the Morning Consult poll finds that Trump leads Biden right now in 6 of 7 crucial swing states. Well, if he's leading in 6 of 7 crucial swing states, kind of means he's going to win the Electoral College if the math holds up. CNN, Trump leads Biden by 3 points among men of color voters. That's the way CNN refers to it. What that means is not white when they say that. NBC News, Trump leads Biden by 2 points. That's NBC saying that. In Morning Consult, voters trust Trump over Joe Biden on 10 key issues, basically everything. Hunter Biden's legal chaos could damage the 2024 election, according to this Politico report. Quote, members of the president's inner circle have expressed frustration over how the matter was all but behind them. Some Democrats believe that the trials could damage Joe Biden politically. Oh, really? What would lead you to that conclusion? Where do they pay these Democrat strategists? You know, this scandal with the Biden family could hurt Joe Biden's political chances. Well, no kidding. In a normal functioning country, yes. If the public becomes convinced that your family is completely corrupt, it might hurt your reelection chances. Quote, this Hunter story has the legs to ruin things for Biden, a Democrat strategist told The Messenger. Quote, the controversy about Hunter Biden's financial dealings might play the same role for Republicans that Hillary Clinton's emails did in 2016. As a second Democrat strategist called Brad Bannon told the messenger. Oh, I see. So, well, here, actually, there's a massive difference here. One is Hunter Biden and the Biden family corruption didn't actually get to play the same role that Hillary Clinton's corruption did in 2016. So the American people got to know something about Hillary Clinton's wanton disregard for the protection of classified information. She sets up private servers inside of her bathroom in Chappaqua, New York, mishandles classified information to the point that she's asking staff members to print it out for her because she's too lazy to do it herself. And, you know, even James Comey, of all people, he comes along and says, yeah, we found a lot of classified information, classified markings all over the place on Hillary Clinton's email server, which was obviously designed to evade public disclosure laws. So that all came out in 2016. So that did have, it would be reasonable to assume, some effect on the minds of voters. They learned about Hillary Clinton's crimes, and they said she shouldn't be president of the United States. And guess what they did? They voted for Donald Trump. Like a normal functioning country would have that. In fact, that's the whole reason for the press. The whole reason that the press has its protections in the First Amendment is to hold the powerful accountable and to give information to the American people. Now, obviously, a whole bunch of people in the press didn't really want to talk about Hillary Clinton's emails, but and to remind you, again, these are actually government emails. Hillary emails is probably the wrong way to put that, because it suggests that these were just yoga emails. Remember, she was describing that? Can you imagine her doing yoga? Sorry, I don't want to put that image in your head. I know this has been a rough half hour for images being put in your head. Let's not talk about Hillary Clinton doing yoga. But Hillary Clinton claimed that these were just, you know, recipes and yoga, as if Hillary Clinton has cooked anything in her entire life. It was just for recipes. And so that was a real deal scandal. It was real Clinton corruption. So now the Democrat strategist talking to Politico is worried that Hunter Biden's financial dealings might do the same thing. Well, no, they won't, because in Hunter Biden's case, his corruption was already covered up by the American news media and by the big social media companies, and most importantly by the FBI, which got to the social media companies and groomed them into compliance before the Hunter Biden story came out in public. Remember all of that in 2020? In other words, the Hunter Biden story, the Biden family story, did not get the Hillary Clinton treatment because the press learned from what happened to Hillary. They learned that scrutiny of Hillary Clinton hurt her chance of getting elected. So let's not give it to the Bidens. So when the Hunter Biden story appears, they don't scrutinize him. So that's actually what happened. So this Democrat strategist, Brad Bannon, is getting it wrong. But he is basically concerned that, oh my gosh, the more the public finds out about this, the more it could hurt Joe Biden's reelection chances. Obviously. That's obviously true. And it was, of course, the source of why the government moved heaven and earth to hide that story from you in the first place. That's just the truth. And here you have Hunter Biden now telling friends and family that he is prepared to flee the country. If Donald Trump returns to the White House, because he's worried that he'll be held accountable. But he knows with Joe in office, there's no reason to flee. Everything's going to be fine.
WMAL, making sense of the forecast, because you never know what Mother Nature has in store. Download the WMAL app to stream us for free.
Well, it's been nearly 3 years since the events of January 6, 2021, and that's why the Biden administration, ahead of the next election, has decided to choose this very moment to prosecute a conservative journalist who merely covered the events of that day. That journalist joins us next with all of the breaking news. Stay with us.